Okay, we're up to today's daf is Mem Gimel Amid Aleph, and we're going to start on Mem Beis Amid Beis, and we're in the sugya of Chatzi Eved Chatzi Baschayrin. Chatzi Eved Chatzi Baschayrin. So, Iboilahu Eved Shemachru Rabbi L'Kinas, an Eved, and he sells he's not freeing his Eved. We saw yesterday that if a Sharmu hits an Eved, no matter what his value is, he's going to pay Shleishim Shel Eved, a set amount. Futures, can he sell futures rights that if this Eved is killed by an ox, that's a mu'id, and you'd have to pay Kanas, can he do that or not? Machar or Eina Machar? Is it a sale or not a sale? If it's a sale and the goring takes place, then the one who bought it would collect the Shleishim Shel Eved. If it's not a sale, then the guy lost his money. Nothing, it's like it's not a sale at all. He can't sell it. Now, Tiboy Reb Meya, Tiboy Rabbanan. It's a shayla according to Reb Meya. It's a shayla according to Rabbanan. Tiboy Reb Meya. Ad kan lekam Reb Meya Adam Makna Davar Shabal Olam. We have a sugya, famous sugya in Masechta Bava Metzia and Amafkid and other places, whether a person can be makna davar shlabal olam. In other words, can I go ahead and sell something that's not in this world? So Rabbi says you could. When is that? Going Paris dekel the avide de osi. I could sell you the Paris on a tree, because even though the Paris are not in the world, the tree is in the world. Well, over here, how do you know that the shtoising will ever take place? In other words, this is a much farther davar shlabal olam, and therefore even Reb Meir, who holds by Paris, you could be makna davar shlabal olam, would agree by by selling kanas, you cannot sell it. Now, v'imtim sulaymar the mingach, and even if you're going to say that it's gore, the mishalem dilma moidu miftar. It's a shtickle, guys, a shtickle shvek shveko. As we say in yeshiva, svek sveka, right? Even if the goring takes place, and even if the potential for shloshim shel eved works, if the person's moida that it happened, that he goes into Bezdin, and his moida that his ox scored, he would be off the hook. We have a klal moida b'kenas is potter. So, in other words, this is a very far-reaching davar shlabal olam that this sale should be a sale. One, how do you know he's going to gore? It's not in this world at all. It's not a tree that for its Paris. And two, even if you're going to say, well, the gore, even if he would have gored, there's no raya he would pay. Why? Because basically, might be Knesset's potter. The Tiboil Rabbanon, and this should be a shaila according to the Rabbanon, who says, Ein odam makna davar shlabal olam. So even if you have a tree in the world, it can't be makna the Paris. Ad kan like Rabbanon, Ein odam makna davar shlabal olam, el gain Paris dekel. The hashdamir lesnahu. Again, at this point in time, the dekel's in the world, but the Paris are not. But aval hacha hakoy shar, the koy eved. Over here we have a shar and we have an eved. They're both in the world. In other words, both the nizik and the mazik are in the world. Maybe then, even though the action is not in the world, it's less of a davar shlabal olam. And maybe the Chachamim would say you could sell. So the Gemara is looking at the Shaila from different perspectives. Even the one that's makel by Paris could be machmeh by the shar, and even the one that's machmeh by Paris could be makel by shar. Because again, and here you have both in the world. What's the din? So Amar Rav Abba Toshma. We have a pasuk. The chein yikde nefesh kinyan kasboy. We know by truma that if a kohen buys an eved, that eved now reaches truma, right? Yelid beisai, and yelid beisai means, let's say he has an existing shifra in his rishus. They will eat the lechem. They'll eat truma. So the pasuk is describing two people who eat truma. One for kohen, the eved who the kohen purchases, and two, a shifra that he owns has a child. Now, I would think that Yelid Beisai is less of a chiddush, Kinyan Kasboy, guys, he was out of the parsha. He's bought, and now he's in the parsha. Yelid Bias was born into the parsha. She's born to the shifka who was already owned by the kohen. So the Gemara is going to go ahead and play with those two tzadim. Yelid Bias, not Tabalayim. Why do you say Yelid Bias? In Kinyan Kesef Eichel, Yelid Bias like Kol Shekain. If Kinyan Kesef that he acquires, he eats, then someone who is born into it certainly would eat, like Kol Shekain. So, Ilu Kain Hayisi, and if you're going to write only Kinyan Kesef and not write Yelid Beisai. Now, guys, so you're telling me you can infer Yelid Bias, you can infer from Kinyan Kesef. So, meaning I'd only write Kinyan Kesef, and I would know Yelid Bias. I'd write that if a man purchases an Evet, he's in the ballpark. Certainly, what if the is born is in the ballpark, right? I would know that for sure. And Kinyan Kesef Yelid Bias like Kol Shekain. So Ilu Kain, if you just wrote Kinyan Kesef, Hayisi Oimei, I would have said Ma Kinyan Kesef Sheyesh Ba Shava Kesef Eichel Af Yelid Bias Sheyesh Ba Shava Kesef Eichel. Meaning, if you bought an Evet for Kesef, he must have worth. He must have some value. He can do something. How do you know Yelid Bias who can't do anything? Let's say you have a Lid Bias who's born, who's nothing, a total invalid, can't do anything. So you would know that. You would only know someone similar to Kinyan Kesef, someone who has intrinsic value. But someone who doesn't have intrinsic value, I would say does not what? Does not eat. How do you know that even if the Kinyan Kesef is not, how do you know the Yelid Bias, even if it's not worth anything? Yelid Bias mikol Pirish. As long as you're born into the Kohen's house, even if you can't do anything, you would eat truma. Again, what do we want to say, guys? We want to say write Kinyan Kesef and learn out Yelid Bias. Well, one second. Looking at the identifying factors of Kinyan Kesef is that he's worth Kesef. So let's say I would learn it out from him, then he would have to be exactly similar to him, the Yelid Bias, that he has a value. What happens if he has no value? Zero. I would say he doesn't eat. Therefore, it's necessary to write Yelid Bias to tell me he does eat, even though he has no intrinsic value. So therefore, that's what you're telling me. Af Mishen Shava Klum, Tamaloima Yelid Bias. Mikol Makom. Yelid Bias. Ben sheyesh by Shava Kesef, ben shein by Shava Kesef. Oichel. Kinyan Kesef yesh by Shava Kesef. Oichel ein by Shava Kesef ein oichel. In other words, so now you're right. Kinyan Kesef, he buys the guy. There, I would say he eats. What happens? The guy's not worth anything. I would say he doesn't eat. So Tamad Loima Kinyan Kasboy Yelid Beisai. Ma Yelid Bias Af B'Shein Shava Klum. Oichel he eats truma. Af Kinyan Kasboy Af B'Shein Shava Klum. Oichel he eats truma. Good. Okay, this is a nice price. So we're leading up to a question. We're leading up to a question. Okay. So let's get the lima down. We have the reason why you wrote Yelid Bias is to teach me that even if he's worth nothing, you eat. Kinyan Kesef is juxtaposed to right? That even if the Kinyan Kesef is worth nothing. Now, watch your kasha, Gamal kasha. If you could sell the Evet for Kanas, he's worth something. There'll be no Evet that's worth nothing. The Gemara, beautiful lamdas of a Gemara. The Gemara has a shayla Rabbi. Can you sell your rights for the Kanas? Shleishma shel Evet, that Pashas Mishpatim, that if a Shar Hamuid goes ahead and gores, and you can collect 30, can you sell that right? Is it a Davar Shlei Ba'olam or not? We had Tut Stadim, both Rabbi and the Chachamim. So the Gemara wants to bring a raya from here that it must be that you can't sell them, right? Because if you could sell them, then everyone has value. That's the Gemara's kasha. The Fred Gemara kasha. If you're going to tell me an Evet that was sold for Kanas is sold, would you ever have an Evet that can't be sold? What? Right? Will you ever have an Evet that can't be sold? So, in other words, obviously, so every Evet would have a value. Ella must be you're not able to sell them. Since you're not able to sell them, we can push Rashayla. Says no, there is an Evet that Evet treifa. There's an evet that, in other words, guys, watch. Really, I could sell an evet for kanas. If that's the case, then there's an evet that there's no evet that's not worth anything. There is an evet that's not worth anything. If the evet's a treifa is somebody who has an eternal wound in his body that he can't live more than a year. Pashtus, according to Gemara Machlokes, Gemara and Chulin, whether he could live or not live. The treifa ain't a chaya or not. So we say treifa ain't a chaya, guys. A treif is a gavra ketila. He's a dead man. No one is. So in other words, if a shor would gore a treifa, it'd be pata because gavra ketila katal killed a dead man. So therefore, so in other words, so there he has no value. I want to say he has no value. Freddy, what do you mean he has no value? The treifa can serve him. He has value as long as he's alive. He can bring him his coffee, his tea, whatever. It says this guy's a triple loser. Not only is he a treifa, he's a manuvel and a mukashkin. It's somebody you don't want to be around. Someone, so therefore, you have someone who doesn't have any value. So therefore, you can't be pushed to the shaila. Again, it remains in the bayit. So outside, let's recap. We had a shaila. Can you sell an evet? Can you hear me? My voice is a little shot. You able to hear me? Good. If you have an evet that could you sell them for kanas? The Gemara wants to be pushed that you can't. Right, but you can't sell them for kanas. Because if you could, we just had a long-winded brisa where just as you'll bias, even if it has no value each truma, so to a kinyan kesef it has no value each truma. If kinyan kesef can be sold for kanas, it must be it has value. And we're stating, well, he's a treifa, he's a mugashchin, he's a manuvel. In all these cases, he has. So therefore, that would create an evet that has no value. Therefore, you need truma. But einachinami. It's possible that you could go ahead and sell what an evet for the kanas. It remains in a bayit leiv shita. New shaila. Okay, it's a lot of words over here, but see the shaila seems interesting. Iboilahu. Mi shechetzi of evet, the chetzi of ben chayrin. You have a person who's here for evet, here for ben chayrin. So again, he's been freed halfway to partners. If you kuli alma, two partners, one feeds the other, right? Shekidesh baschayrin, who's magdash baschayrin. So now there was half of him is magdash, and half she's not. Half she's seen to him, and half not. Mahu. Now we said that you shouldn't do this. We said he really can't do this. What happens if he does do this? Are they married or not? Imtim saloima. If you say Ben Yisrael Shama Labas Yisrael, Hiskachi Lechatzoi, be koina to half the man. The man says, be koina to half me. So Allah is Mekudeshes. It's Mekudeshes in that case. If you say to Mekadesh to half me, because what he's saying is, right, that Rashi says, that Tinosev Achrina Bahade, this is no other person can marry the other half, right? So he's the whole mind of the Chazil Lemevet of it. In other words, if I go over to my wife and say, be Mekudeshes to half of me, can she be Mekudeshes to any other man? No. So I'm leaving over something for myself that I could do at a later time. So therefore it's Mekudeshes. So therefore, that's a big difference between that case and the case of Chatzi Even Chatzi Baschayrin. Because if I'm a Kaddish, my wife to me, she's seen to the whole of me. Even if I'm a Kaddish half of her to me, she's seen to the other half. You're only seen to the Baschayrin part. You're not seen to the Chatzi Eved part. Therefore, you can't be Poishet the Shaila from there. The Iskachi Lechatzoy Mekudeshes, the Chazi Lekulay. But the case of Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Baschayrin, Lechazi Lekula, you're not seen to the whole individual because there's the Chatzi Eved part. Imtim Saloima, Ben Yisrael and Mekadesh Chatzi Isha. Now the other way. I'm only Mekadesh here for my wife. I go to my wife and I said, I'm Mekadesh here for you. So I'm the Shire. That's not a good Kedushin. Ein Mekudeshes, the Shire B'Kinyanoi. Guys, if I go over to my wife and I say, be Mekudeshes here for me, can I be Mekadesh the other half? Nothing's stopping me, right? But my Kedushin felt in the Kedushin because I was only Mekadesh half of her. I was only Magdash half of her. But Eved le Shire B'Kinyanoi. But by the case of Chatzi Aved, Chatzi Baschayrin, I was Mekadesh anything that I possibly could be Mekadesh, the half Baschayrin part. So again, we have a Shiloh over here. Good. Let's go through the Shiloh. A man is Mekadesh, Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Baskoirin. What's the halacha? Mekudeshes or not? I cannot be poishit from a Bas Yisrael. Why? If a man says, you're Mekadesh to half for me, she's Mekudeshes to him because he'll take care for the other half. He wants to be shy or anything. She can't be Mekadesh to anybody else. If a man is Mekadesh half an Isha, right, half an Isha, then she's not Mekudeshes because he could have done the whole thing and he only did half. Hashenkin over here, he did the whole thing, except the whole thing is only half because she's Chatzi Bas, Chatzi Evet, right, Chatzi Shivcha. So that when it says you knows I can't be pushed to Shiloh from those two possibilities. Let's look to push the Shiloh. First wide line. Toshma. Hamis Misha Chetziv Ebe Chetziv Ben Chayvin. If a shor would go ahead and kill, right? If a shor would go ahead and kill Chatzi Ebe Chetziv Bas Chayvin, Noisi Chatzi Kenas LeRabbi, the Chatzi Kayfel Yarshav. Half and half. Be Amit Kiddushos of Lav Kiddushin, right? And Yarshin Minolei. Where in the world did you get Yarshim from? Some unbelievable how the Gemara brings in from left field. We meet Baba Kama. Guys, he kills an Eved Chatzi Eved Chatzi Baskoirin. Good. So we have two parts. We have a Kanas part and we have a Kofa part, right? We have the Chatzi Eved is a Kanas part, and the Chatzi Ben Chayrin is a Kofa part. So you give half the Kanas to the master and half the Kofa to his Yarshim. Now, if he is in this status and he has Yarshim, how did he have Yarshim? How did he have Yarshim? It must be that Kedushin is Kedushin. There's no Havamina that he's paying Avodim. There's no Havamina Dove that he's producing Avodim. You understand? You're going to answer, well, maybe he married a Shivcha and they had kids. You don't have to. Yarshim means the Chatzi Kaifa part. The Chatzi Kaifa part is Machbas's Bas Yisrael part. Dove. The Eved part is the Knas. It goes to the master. If he would have children that are Avodim, that's the Knas part. It's not the Kaifa part. Got it?
He could have had children before he became an Eved.
No. He's an Eved Kanani. He's an Eved Kanani.
Oh, Eved Kanani. I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Eved Kanani. The Amit Kedushav left Kedushin Yoshim in LA. So let's be Paishit the Shaila that he could marry and produce what? Produce Yoshim, produce kids, Jews. It's not speaking about Yarshim, it's speaking about him. That he was, the Shor made him a treifa. So he's considered a dead man, and he's going to inherit the Chatzi Kaifer. So there's no Yarshim, guys. In other words, I can't be Paishit the Shaila. Why can't I be Paishit the Shaila? Because there are no Yarshim. There are no Yarshim. I can't be Paishit the Shaila. There are no Yarshim whatsoever. And why is there Kanas? Because he's dead. Why is he dead? Because he made him a treifa. And we just discussed that a treifa is a guy of a katila. So in answer to your question, you wanted, the Yarshim are? There are no Yarshim. It's him. Read the Gemara, Umay Yarshav Nafshe himself. Amar Rava says to Ravada Barava, Shtei Shuvas B'Davachada, the Yarshav Ketani. I'm not buying this teretz that a treifa, himself is Yarshim. Yarshim means Yarshim. The Brisa wouldn't have used such an obscure term if it was really him to describe Yarshim. V'oid, kaifahu. In addition, it's kaifu. V'amrei shlakish kaifein b'shtalim elalacha misa. Fellas, what are you paying the Yarshim? You're paying for the free man part. The free man part is the kanasa kaifer. It's kaifer. Kaifer can only pay when he's legally dead, not when he's actually dead, not legally dead, right? And he's not dead. If you're telling me he's a treifa, so good he might be legally dead, but he's not in actuality dead. So those are two reasons why. Okay. So now, therefore, Pashtus, let's go back and revisit. So we're going to be Paishah the Shaila. When he has Yarshim, it must be because he could be Mekadesh Abbas Yisrael, and they had Yarshim, and they had Yarshim. El Amarava, Roy Lito, he's Roy to take it, because he has half of him is a free man, the Ein Loy, and he doesn't have. No, he doesn't have anyone to take it. He doesn't have any Yarshim. So when it says over here, second wide line, excuse me, the Rabbi, the Chatzi Kar for the Yarshav, when it says that he's going to give Chatzi Kar for the Yarshav, what it means is What it means is that the Chatzi Kaifer, it's roy for his part to take. If he had Yarshim, the Ein Loy, but he doesn't have Yarshim. And therefore you can't be Paisha the Shaila. So that also remains an Abaya Delay Ifshita. This remains also an Abaya Delay Ifshita. Okay, we're going to have a few different opinions in this thing. We're going to go through a few different opinions. Darish Rabba Barav Huna Kishem Shemakadesh Chachi Isha Enam Kudeshes. Just like if you would be Makadesh here for a woman, you're not Mekudeshes. Kach Chatzi Shivcha, the Chatzi Baschairin Sheniskadsha Enam Mekudeshes. The Shaila before, fellas, was where the man was Mekadesh Bas Yisrael. Here it's where the Bas Yisrael is Mekadesh here for Isha. Again, this is not the Shaila we just had. The Shaila we just had was the man was Chatzi. Here, the woman is Chatzi, and the man is a full-fledged Jew. So when he's Mekadesha, does it go on the Baschairin part, and she's totally Mekudeshes, and he's freeing the Eved part? Or no, do we say in a Mekudeshes? That's the dialogue we're going to go through right now. So says the Gemara. Amalei Rav Chisda, mi dami. How can you compare Chatzi Isha to Chatzi? Let's go outside, guys. When he was Mekadesh, a real Jew, a regular Jew to a Jewess, he was Mekadesh half. Why is it not Mekudeshes? Because he could have been Mekadesh the whole when he wasn't. She was, both parts were available. Over here, whatever's available, he's being Mekadesh. He's being Mekadesh, and I guess in the vernacular, the half here is a whole. That makes any sense, right? The half here is a whole, because the half a woman that he could be Mekadesh is a whole. Mashen came, a whole woman half is not. Pasam Shaya B'Kinyanoi, over there by woman, a regular woman with a regular man, he was a Mashaya in the Kenyan. Hacha, but by Chatzi Shivcha, Chatzi Baschairin, L'Shaya B'Kinyanoi. So that's what Rav Chisda told Rabba Bar Rav Huna. That's what Rav Chisda told Rabba Bar Rav Huna. Now, he must have darshan this barabim, Rabba Bar Rav Huna, and now he hears the difference. He made the sushtel between Chatzi Isha and Chatzi Shivcha, Chatzi Baschairin. He's hearing from Rav Chisda an upshlag, and he's being moida on the MS, and now he wants to go ahead and publicize that he made a mistake. So what did he do? So Hadu Ukim Rabba Bar Rav Huna Amayra Aleha, he went to the base medrash, he set up Meturgimin to Darshan Barabim, the Dorish, and he darshan the Pasuk, the Hamach Shela Hazois Tachas Yedecha, Machshela, if you're Michshel, if you stumble in Torah, right, it should be underneath your hands. What does that mean? That a person can't arrive at the amitus of Torah unless he makes mistakes along the way. So in other words, I made a mistake by zustelling Chatzi Shivcha, Chatzi Baschairin to Chatzi Isha. Afa Pisha Amra Mekadesh Chatzi Isha Eina Mekudeshes Al Chatzi Shivcha, Chatzi Baschairin Sheniskadsha Kiddusheha Kiddushin My Taima Pasam Shaya B'Kinyanoi by Chatzi Isha. Excuse me, he left over here the Kenyan. Hacha over here. Over here, he did not leave over in his Kenyan. He was in Kaddish the whole thing. So he was more on the difference. So we've had two separate parshas, guys, right? We have a parsha of Chatzi Evet, Chatzi Baschairin, which we weren't Paishit. We have a parsha of Chatzi Shivcha, Chatzi Baschairin, where apparently we're saying we are being Paishit, that she's Mekudeshes. Don't leave yet. Amrav Sheishes, Kashem Sham Mekadesh Chatzi Isha, Eina Mekudeshes. There's no difference between a Chatzi man, there's no difference between a Chatzi woman, they're both not Mekudeshes. And a person's going to go ahead and whisper you the following. We brought in yesterday, I still have it. Of course not. We brought in yesterday this pasuk, right? Ki yishkat ish isha shichva zera, v'yish shivcha nechrefes leish, v'hafte lo nifgasa. And we saw a pshat, v'hafte, she was redeemed, and lo nifgasa, but she wasn't redeemed completely. She wasn't given a shtar shichra. The kairis tiyeh lo yumsu, the person who has zinus with her, right? Lo yumsu shouldn't die. Because she never received the shtar shichra, right? This is the pasuk. So this pasuk is speaking about chatzi evet chatzi basklerim. Good. There's another pshat, guys, that this is speaking about a shifcha, a regular shifcha kananis that's married to a Jew, that's engaged to a Jew. Usually by Ashes Ish, the din is misa. This woman, whatever she is, whether she's a half and half, or whether she's a full-fledged goy, engaged, and not a full-fledged shivcha, engaged to a Jewish man, v'karis tiyah, this malchus, lo yamusa, but he's not going to die. That was the pasuk we saw yesterday. And with this, we're going to go ahead and question. Again, you're saying a chatzi, there's no kedushin, right? You're saying chatzi, there's no kedushin. Amrav Sheshes. A person's going to whisper in your ear the following question. What's the parsha of Shivcha Charufa that we just viewed in that pasuk? Who's engaged, meaning she's an arusa to an Eved Ivri. Alma bas isrusahi. You see that she's a bas erison. In other words, why would you think he's punished by death unless there's erison, guys? You need to tell me that you don't die. Obviously, there must have been some type of ishus between this woman and the Eved Ivri. There must be some ishus. What's the ishus? That the Eved Ivri was Mekadisha, and it's good kedushin, correct? That's what it must be. But since she has a tzad avdis to her, nonetheless, the Torah will consider it that she don't die. So on that, Rav Sheshes, who said "Ein kedushin," says if any person tells you that, here's what you answer them: the Emerloi klach etzel Rabbi Shmuel shu oimer b'shifra kenainis hamurasel Eved Ivri. Right. In other words, that pasuk I told you, there's another way to learn the pasuk. It's a regular shifcha kenainis, a regular Eved Amma shifcha that's engaged to an Eved Ivri. No havesies, correct? Now, what's the halacha if a man is mekadesh an Eved, a full-fledged Eved? Nothing. The whole shaila is because she has a half baskayrim part, guys. But if she's a whole Eved, there's no shaila, correct? Whole Eved, no shaila. And Rabbi Shmuel says that's pshat in the pasuk. The pshat in this pasuk, again, this pasuk. Pshat in this pasuk is the following: the ish, a man, ki yishkaves isha shichva zera. He has an act of znus. The shivcha nechrefes ish. She's a full-fledged shivcha kanainis that is designated for a certain man. Lo yumsu. Now, you're going to tell me that they're married? She's a shivcha. She's a shivcha. He's an ish. He's an Eved Ivri. They're married? Of course they're not married, correct? Yet the Torah had to tell me lo yumsu. So obviously, late Rabbi Yishmael, it's not speaking where there was erisin. So too, when it was half and half, even though there's a tzad half that is seen to the man for kedushin, it's also not speaking about erisin. So it says of Sheshes, this is the teretz to anyone who asks you this kasha, right? El, what do you have to say? The shifcha kanainis basis rusahi is a shifcha kanainis, a full-fledged shifcha, someone you can marry. El, what do you have to conclude? My mu'reses is miyuchedes, that she's miyuchid for this Eved Ivri. Where, guys, we saw earlier in the Masechta by shifcha kanainis, zilale shchichle pritzale, right? That's only when she's not designated to an individual. But when she's designated to an individual, she has a shtikalishus. This is my man. Now, there's no kedushin, but this is my man. So you would have a havamina that this action of being miyachet to this person. I'll go a step farther, guys. Before Matan Torah, kedushin was facilitated by bia, by living to the act of marital relations. That consummated the marriage. So this woman is living in this house with this man. That would appear to be on a level if I'm just giving this as a dugma of koydem Torah. So you might have a havamina that if another man is with her, he would die. The Torah therefore has to tell me lo yumsu. But of course, there's no kedushin. After all, it's after Matan Torah. An Eved Ivri is a full-fledged Jew, and a full-fledged Jew cannot be Mekadesh a Shifcha Kanainis. So obviously, what must he be speaking? We're miyuchid. So who adin, the man the Omar who says that pasuk is speaking about the Chatzi Eved, Chatzi Baskoirin, also speaking miyuchedes. It's also speaking where there was no kedushin. And then Mela, you can't be paishid the shaila that what that you mekudeshes Chatzi that she's mekudeshes. That's what Sheshis is din. That's the way he learns Pshat the pasuk to buttress his din. So Elamaisro Nema, my merusim yuchedes. Hachanami according to the Yoma, that's Chatzi. My mureses is miyuchedes. She's miyuchedes. Okay, very gishma. Yeah, very gishma. I feel really bad. You know what? Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds. You could talk. I think this might be worth it. Okay, let's go back in time. Sechti Yavamis. Guys, 3 men, 3 brothers, married to 3 separate women. Right? Ruvain dies. That creates a zika on his wife. Right? Creates a zika on his wife. Shimon goes ahead and gives Maimer. We only need Ruvain's wife. Shimon goes ahead and gives Maimer. Does that Maimer take off the zika of Ruvain? Maimer is Kedushin D'Rabbanan. It does not, right? Okay. Now Shimon dies. So falling to Ruvain, to Levi, thank you, Lenny, don't rub it in. And you finding it in your mess of books is more impressive than me. Anyway, so Lamed Aleph Amid Beis. Guys, so this woman is falling in front of Levi with 2 zikas. The zika of Ruvain, the first dead brother, and the zika of the mimer of the second brother, right? He can't be Makadisha because it's Eshes Shnei Mason. It's the wife of 2 Mason. It's the wife of Ruvain and Shimon. Does this ring a bell at all? A little bit? A nightmare or a bell? A nightmare or a bell? Okay, so it's the case of Eshes Shnei Mason. It's in Lamed Aleph Amid Beis. 3 women married to 3 men, and we're going to have probably Dr. Press is going to show us the picture.
In which Masechta was this?
Brachas. Brachas.
Excellent.
Yeah, okay, anyway. What does Brachas and Yavamis have in common? They will both end with, come on. What do they end with? Brachas, Krisus, Nida, and Yavamis. The Shalom. Okay, anyway. Anyway, so here's the case. Here's the case over here. Ruvain goes ahead and he marries, all right? He's married to a Chatzi Eved Chatzi Baskairin. He then frees her. He then freezes her, and then she accepts Kedushin from Shimon. And then they both die. Levi can be Mekadesha. So let's guys outside. Look, let's do the same thing. Guys, let's do the same thing. Watch. So you have 3 brothers, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, and we have 1 woman. This 1 woman is Chatzi Eved Chatzi Baskairin. Reuven marries her. Good. Reuven, and now she's free. And now Shimon marries her. So if the first Kedushin was good Kedushin, then Shimon was never married to her because he can't marry his sister-in-law. Kedushin is not typhus by Chavik increases and Mrs. Bezdin. Yeah. If the first Kedushin of Ruvain to a Chatzi Isha Baskairin is not Kedushin, then Shimon was married to her. So Minman of Shach Levi can go ahead and marry because it's only the Zika of Duyibam, because it's only the Zika of one of them. It's not the case of Eshes Shnei Mason. Again, that's a big distinction. Amar of Chista, Chatzi Shifta v'Chatzi Baskairin, Sheniskat Shel LeRuvain. She accepts Kedushin from Ruvain. Now, guys, let's say it's a very good Kedushin, correct? There's two ways to look at it, right? Here we had Machloikas Amaroyim. If it's a good Kedushin, Vinishtachra, Ruvain frees her, and now she's a full Bas Yisrael, and Ruvain dies. The Chosra Viniskatshel Shimon, and now she gets married to Shimon. Yes? The halacha is Umesu Shneim, and both Ruvain and Shimon die. Bisyabemis Levi, Levi can go ahead and do Yibam. Amid Beis. Why? And I don't call it the case of Esha Shnei Mesim. Why not? Because Manashach. If Kedushay the Ruvain Kedushin stop, Kedushay the Shimon lav Kedushin. Shimon can't marry his sister-in-law, and therefore when Ruvain dies and Shimon dies, she falls to Levi from the Zika of Ruvain. The Kedushay the Shimon Kedushin, and if the Kedushin of Shimon is Kedushin, it must be why? Because Kedushay the Ruvain lav Kedushin, since he's married half a woman, and therefore he's falling the Zika from Shimon. Masha'en came by the case of Esha Shnei Mesim, you have the full Zika of Ruvain, you have the mimer of Shimon, and then when she falls to Levi, you have Yibam from both. Geschmack?
Do you have to know which brother you're doing Yibam for?
Huh?
Only doing Yibam for one of them.
I don't think you have to know. The question is there a Zika? Whichever one it is, you're Mekayim. You don't have to know. I know that I have a dead brother, and I know that it's a mitzvah l'kayim, and whichever one it is, it is. Or why would you have to know? There's no din l'shma. A brother's a brother, right?
Why do I think Lishma and Gitin?
Yeah. I got it, so it's finished. It's good. We're good. Yeah. Itmar. Okay, one second. Okay, we got it. There's an old pal. Three brothers, Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi, married to three separate women, Chana, Penina, and Levi. Chana, Penina, and Rus. Okay, Ruvain dies. Chana accepts Maima from Shimon. Chaim accepts Maima from Shimon. Right? And now Shimon dies. Falling in front of Levi are Chana and Penina. Chana from the Zika of Ruvain, and Penina from the Zika of Shimon. So he does Chalitza. Why can't he do Yibam? Because this is case of Ashes, Shnei Mason. Right? Ashes Shnei Mason. Chana is the wife of Ruvain and Shimon. So you have two Zikas. Thank you, Dr. Press. Frankly, I was as impressed with you getting that. I was more impressed me getting it on the screen in the middle of the share. Okay. That's good. And Mashen came over here, it's either or. It's not both Mason, it's either or. Okay. Imar. Chatzi Shivka v'chatzi Baskoirin. Sheniskatshel Ruvain. Now they're not brothers over here, guys. Here they're not brothers. Ruvain and Shimon are two foreigners. So Itmar. Chatzi Shivka v'chatzi Baskoirin. Sheniskatshel Ruvain nishtachra. Then Ruvain frees her. She got free. V'chosav niskatshel Shimon. Yosi Bachama Omar, Rav Nachman, Paku Kedushay Rishon, right? The Kedushay Rishon was Paka, right? And it's like, I think she's married to the second guy because she's like a whole new person now, right? Look at Rashi. Paku, Afil Mandiyam Mikudeshes, even according to Mandiyama that she be Mikudeshes to who? To Ruvain. Boha Shichra, the Shifra comes along, the Hafkia. and it would take off the kedushin of Ruvain. Umekudeshes l'sheni, sharing ishtana gufa v'havile kikotin shenoilad. Fascinating, guys. Outside, Ruvain's mekadesh half. If he's not mekudeshes, there's no chiddush. That after she's freed, she's married to Shimon. That's not a chiddush. A bigger chiddush. Let's say the kedushin of Ruvain is chal, and now she's freed. That kedushin is paka, because it's like cotton shenoila dani. It's like a new bria, and therefore she'd be married to Shimon. That's a huge chiddush. Says the Gemara. Rav Yosef Bar Chama Rav Nachman paku kedushay rishain, and she's married to the second. Rav Zeva Amar Rav Nachman gomru kedushay rishain. With the act of shichror, it completes the kedushin of Ruvain, and she can't marry to the second one. She's married to Ruvain. Rav Zera, how do I know she's married to Ruvain? Kavasei didim mistabra dichsiv, because the pasuk says lo yumsu. She doesn't die. We saw that, right? Ki lo chufasha, because he never got a shtar shikra. Ha chufasha, if she was got a shtar shikra, if she was freed. It said nishtachra. I assume she got a shtar shikra. Then you must yumsu. She would die. So in other words, the only thing holding back the kedushin over here, why the person who was mizana with her doesn't die, is because she wasn't free. But if she was free, he would die. Why would he die? Must be she's an Eshes Ish, that the ship and Echravas Ish is an Eshes Ish. Amalei Amaya, well, the Tanad Rei Bishmuel, the Amar, Bishifa Kanainis, Hamuresis Levid Ivri. Again, we saw a second shot, guys, right? We saw a second shot in that pasuk. It's not speaking about a half girl. It's speaking about a full-fledged shivcha. That's Rabbi Yishmael, and that's how we established that there's no kiddushin, and that's we're going to ask the same question now. Fellas, what happens, right? If she was freed, would he die? She's a penuya. Guys, listen. The pasuk that we're under discussion is speaking about a full-fledged shivcha. And if you have relations with a full-fledged shivcha that's designated for an Eved Ivri, you don't die. Because she wasn't freed. What happens if she was freed? Then she'd be what? She won't be an Eshes Ish, she'd be a Pnuya. Because a full-fledged Eved can't marry an Eved Ivri. And therefore, she wouldn't die. What are you going to say? Eved Ivri, Hachnami Dechi, Koshi Yumsu. What do you have to say? Shechufsha, she was freed because of an iskatsha. And the reason why you will die is because she received Kedushin again. Hachanami, Shechusha because of an iskatsha. Over here also, that she was freed and she received Kedushin again from the first husband. So that's what Zera says, Kavasi Didim Mistabra, that it completes the she gets the Kedushin again from the first husband. Amr Afuna Bar Gitin of Yitzchak, Ma'isa B'Isha Achas, Shechetzi Shivcha V'Chetzi Baskayrin. She was halvesies. The Kaf was Rabbi Vasu Baskayrin, and nothing happened. She wasn't married to anybody. But just as our Mishnah, we forced a half man, half Eved for the master to divorce because he's mitzvah in Perivya, right? So too, they forced this woman because she's mitzvah in Perivya. Kiman, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broikadama, Al Shnei Muoimer Vayivarcha Sem Elokim Vayomer Peru Revu Milu. Now, we had machlokes in the Gemara in Masechta Yavamis, since we're discussing Yavamis. Who is mitzvah in Perivya? Peru Uruvu Umilu Esaretz V'Kif Shuha. Whoever's in the ballpark of capturing the land is in the ballpark of Peru Uruvu. Who captures land? Men. Women do not. So they're not in the ballpark. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broika said, no, they are in the ballpark. So if they are in the ballpark of Peru Uruvu, then the Mela, just like from a man that we know he's in the ballpark, we're going to free. Who had din, a woman is in the ballpark, you'll be forced to free. The same din as our Mishnah. Right? And this statement will be going according to the Tana of Yochanan Broika that says there's a din of Peru by Anisha. Or by Yitzchak, it's not true. Really, there's no din of Peru. But you know why they freed that Eved, that Shivcha? Because Minik Hefka no Guba. People were being mizanim with her left and right. They were treating her Hefka. She didn't have the protection of a man. So they freed her in order that she should be a Bas Yisrael, being ready to be married, and thus she'd be designated to a man, and you wouldn't have any problems. I thank everyone for listening. Rez Hashem, I don't know if I'll be able to make it tomorrow night to shul. I'll post what exactly is, if I can make it or not. But should live and be well. The show will go on.
For Shlema.
Yes, for Shlema.
Let's get a bracha that the